Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nice with Ebon Pinion. We are here today for an author roundtable with Mark Alexander McClish, the author of Adharis Sonder, Mark Pigott, which is the author of The River of Souls, which is coming out in August, and David Grinnell, the author of Ashes and Moonglade, and an upcoming novel from Quill Keepers called Light Waves. So, welcome, everybody. So happy to see your faces today. Usually I let things kind of just be open topic, but I really wanted to bring some things to the table, which I learned over the last couple of weeks, and talk about marketing our books, getting them into more bookstores, as well as our social media presence. So let's dive into it. Some of you already have books out and they've been doing really well. Mark Adharis Sonder won an International Indie Award for Science Fiction earlier this year. It was very exciting. And we also have it available as on audiobook now. So it's the first audiobook in Curious Corvid, which was really exciting. David, you have Ashes and Moonglade. Moonglade became a #1 bestseller within 5 days of it debuting, which is so exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Mark, you're going to have your novella coming out really soon, and you're already an award-winning author in multiple categories with many of your other books, which is super cool. I remember when I saw your application come through Curious Corvid, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have an award-winning author in my house.
Well, I mean, it was the first time of applying for these awards, and I was believe me, I was equally shocked when I got them. It's one of those things I always say is that when your peers recognize you, that's a big thing. I mean, I enjoy that tremendously. It's why I love reading other authors' books, because it's that you spread the wealth, especially when you're an independent author and you need those reviews to kind of pump up the numbers and get you recognized,
Yeah.
Things like that. So that's always helpful in that.
I think finding awards systems that are reasonable and fair to indie authors is a little bit harder too. Like, you have to spend more time digging through and seeing what's real and what isn't, and then it's a lot of it is also trial and error, trying to fit into a place where there's so many different kinds of books. So I always think it's really impressive when indie authors, especially self-published authors, go that extra effort to try and get their book noticed. When you are a self-published author, you have so much stacked against you. Oh, Robert's here. Hi, Robert. Welcome to our round table.
Oh.
How are you doing?
Cheers. Hey.
We were just talking about book awards and being an indie book person, how challenging it can be to get your book out there and get seen by other people, and how rewarding I think it is to be a self-published author who is able to get awards like on your own without somebody advocating for you. That's hard, and I think it's just really cool. We were talking about Mark Pigott has done that a lot with his books prior to Curious Corvid. So it's very exciting. I'm slowly compiling a list of indie places for us to submit more of our books to, things that I know that other people have done that are reputable, so that we're not wasting our time. Because I just think that is really, really a great opportunity for indie artists in general. I learned something interesting this week. So through Curious Corvid, my whole platform has always been print on demand. Print on demand is more affordable for both the author and the publisher. And being able to just print what you need means that anybody can order your book in any quantity, and it doesn't have to be like a set amount. So it's just more affordable for everyone all around. And you don't have stacks of books sitting in warehouses or your basement or laundry room waiting for them to get shipped out somewhere.
Right.
But one of the downsides to being print on demand is that bookstores view you as a riskier investment, apparently. When I publish through Ingram Spark, it when you get everything all set up, it gives you the option to provide bookstores with a discount on your book so that they're more likely to stock them in their stores. And it gives you a range between 35 and 55% off of your book for them to put you in their stores. Now, fun fact, Ingram Spark does not tell you which one you should be doing. It just leaves it open market, right?
Yeah, I've noticed
So,
that with my book as well. Like I've seen at some bookstores they discount it like 15% off, 20% off.
So in order to get any of our books anywhere in any bookstore, we have to offer a discount no matter what. So that, because of course they want a slice of the pie, right? Anybody who sells your book, they're going to want a part of the income. And I think that's totally fair. So I've always opted for the 35%, which is on the lower because it's from 30 to 55. But I always have opted for 35 because our books are already on the cheaper end of things. And being that we are a small press and we're all indie authors, it's just kind of a, we can't really afford to be giving away our books for practically free.
Right.
But I was talking with Grace recently, and she has been trying to get her books out in more places. And her local Barnes and Noble, she went and visited and had a conversation with them. And they told her that they wouldn't buy her books to put into the bookstore unless it was listed for 55% off and able to accept returns.
Damn.
Ooh.
So I thought this was really interesting because I have also reached out to many bookstores to try and get our books listed. And either I don't get a response, or I don't get an email back, or they just keep forwarding me to other people to talk to. So no one has ever actually told me that they wouldn't buy books to have on stock in the store if it wasn't a specific discounted price. So that's helpful information to know now after the fact. But going forward, if we wanted to have our books in a brick and mortar store, we'll have to list them at a 55% discount and accept returns.
Well, I know if I can,
Yes.
the book signing I did recently with the Moravian bookstore in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, the one issue they had was that the book had to be returnable. Because of my two of my books, one is the Outlander War, that was published through Austin Macaulay, and that is returnable. So they were able to order some of those in, and so any extras they were able to return them without any issue. My other book is Las Megas, is published through Lulu, and they're not returnable. So we made a deal where I brought in 10 copies of my own books, and then whatever I sold, they would buy then the books and send them to me to replenish my stock, more or less. So we did that as a kind of a trade-off. So being returned for some of these bookstores, I think returnable is the biggest thing, especially when you're doing book signings.
I think that's reasonable too. I mean, the one thing that I was worried about was that there are so many people who take advantage of the return policies, especially on Kindle and through Amazon. And that's the biggest thing that I was afraid of, because I've seen some of the authors that I followed who are self-published actually end up owing money to like Amazon at the end of the month, because people will buy their books, read them, and then return them. And then that expense of the returning ends up falling on to the author. So they're losing money in the process and then end up owing it too, which I think is ridiculous.
Oh, that's cheap.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yep.
Frankly, I can't understand accepting returns on a book at all, because like with any other, there's an assumption that you have used it in some way. You at least can't return it for all of your money back. And with a book, it's not like a book is that expensive to begin with. Take it to McKay's.
Yeah. Even if you wanted to do that, you'd just be easier to go to a library and order the book through there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It would.
Yeah. Unless it was like just a really short return time, like a day or something. Like if you bought it as a gift for somebody and then they're like, I already have this. Like 24 hours, because most people aren't going to read a book in one day, although it's certainly possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just switching the Discord. We have people listening, and apparently there was no audio this whole time. I
Oh,
definitely know what I'm doing. Okay, it's fine.
Unfortunate. That's how streaming always goes. It's not streaming if you don't have to do it 3 times, right?
When
yeah,
I did,
exactly.
when I was doing my spoops with Ravven the other night, or not last night, but the night before, um, I had recorded it and accidentally recorded it without audio. So I had like a whole thing of content that was no longer any good because it didn't have any audio to it. I was so mad.
Mm.
Oh my gosh.
Silent
So, all right, everybody who's in Discord right now, you should be able to hear. And if you click on the live, you should be able to watch the live and hear the live now. Unfortunately, I don't have any video for you to watch, but I'm going to be working on getting that fixed. So you have videos, but you should be able to hear everything now. We had 2 people, I guess, that are David's friends join the Discord today. Roxasora17 and ZZ Sam. They said hi, Dave.
Awesome.
Team Rock. That's cool. You can pretty much add a Saurus to anything, and it makes it sound like way.
That's fair.
That's true.
So another thing that I wanted to talk about was social media today, and our social media presence, and how we are marketing ourselves and our books, and how we're putting ourselves out there. Because let's face it, self-promotion is disgusting, and it's really hard to like get up and talk about yourself and not feel weird about it. It's easy when I talk about you guys because I'm really proud of you all and I can talk about your books all day long. But when it comes to my own content, I do still struggle talking about what it is that I have to offer because I often feel like you see
You offer as an author.
Yes, what I offer as an author, that's a tongue twister. So I thought we could talk a little bit about different platforms and different things to utilize in your content and your creation. Some of us are really good about posting regularly on our social media. Some of us are not. Not calling anybody out here specifically.
I'm great at it if I schedule them out ahead of time.
Yes, so that's one of my recommendations for if you are like me and you're very busy and you just don't want to really be bothered, scheduling your posts so that they automatically upload every day. Usually once a month I sit down and I take the evening and I schedule all of the posts for Curious Corvid out like a month in advance if I can. And I actually do it through Canva. So you can do it.
I use Hootsuite
Yes.
for mine. I use that. That's my bread and butter because it's on my phone and I can just sit there and do it real quick and pan it out, and it goes to my main 3 social media and such. The only one I have to do individually is TikTok if I ever do, because I'm still learning it. I'm still working at how and what to do because it's a little strange for me, that one.
Oh, TikTok is, yeah, I do TikTok. I'm way too chaotic on there to actually end up on the right page though, because I just kind of do like a smattering of everything and hope that it sticks. I try to keep it book related, but it kind of just goes all over the place. But yes, I find if you find a platform where you can schedule your posts out and you just make a whole bunch, and then you don't have to worry about it every day, and it's already set up, and it only takes a couple hours of your time, like once a month, to schedule things out. So when it comes down to social media and social media presence, the big debate amongst authors is, does it actually matter? Does it help you make sales? Or is it just a waste of your time? So it depends on who you're talking to, because there are a lot of big authors that will tell you that social media doesn't matter and they don't really utilize it. And that's fine if you're a big author who has a following already.
Big publisher, aren't they? They
Yeah.
already the big, yeah. So they have like a whole marketing department behind them already. Yeah, so duh.
So some people think that social media is a waste of time. My personal thoughts on it are as such. When you are an indie author, the whole purpose of being an indie author, I think, is that you have the creative freedom to be who and what you want. And when you're an indie author, you create from passion and perseverance and from a place of wanting to stand out. It isn't about being rich and famous, although let's face it, we all want that. I do. But that's not like the focal point, right? The focal point is that we feel like we have stories and we just want to share them and we just want to get them out there. And I think one of the most appealing things about indie authors is that they are so much more accessible than most mainstream big time authors. For instance, I probably won't ever have a conversation like this with Stephen King or with Sarah Moss or with any of those big people out there, right? I won't know them. I won't care about them on a day-to-day basis like I care about you guys. You know, I care about how you're doing and what you're doing with your life and what you have going on. And I care about why you're writing the way that you write or why you share these things. And I think that readers identify with that and they want the opportunity to be able to know authors and engage with them on a more personal level. So when it comes down to social media, I do think that a presence is important. I think it's especially important in the case that you do take off, that when people look you up, you have something going on and you have like content for them to view and to kind of get to know you, especially if you have other books behind you already. I think it's important that, you know, you just have that framework behind you so that when you do become rich and famous, as I'm sure you all will, you have something kind of propping you up and to present to the world.
To me, it's a thing of that with social media. I primarily using it, you know, yeah, I'm putting my books out on a regular basis on social media, and has it helped? I mean, I think in the beginning, it's like a slow build. It's like you build up followers really fast, but then it starts to slow down, you know, as things move along. So I think that's the biggest problem with, you know, you're trying to get that name recognition. You're just trying to get it out there. That's the biggest thing with using social media. It's that easiest platform to do that on. But for me, the most response I get is when I do use it to promote events. That's where I get the biggest response on social media from that. I think that's where I've seen the most.
Yeah. I think I would have sold like 0 books without social media, because even before I was like actually like thinking about how I was going to get anything published, I would just like post like updates about what stuff I was doing and like, you know, illustrations I did for the book and just excerpts from them. And I think when I finally like had something out there, a lot of people who I had this like friends on like Facebook and Instagram, which are the 2 main things I'm on, were like, oh, I can finally see what the hell this thing is that he's been posting about for like the past like year and a half or whatever. So for me, it's been helpful. But yeah, there's certain things I've heard too. Like I've heard from other authors that like TikTok is like amazing if you can figure out how to make it work. I'm just so resistant to it because I just kind of like don't want it. Like I don't even want the app on my phone.
It's kind of
my wife has it,
Yeah.
and it's so distracting, you know.
It is. It's a time suck.
I'm like, that's
addictive.
I have enough of those in my life.
It's addictive. My wife just likes going through and just watching one after the other.
Yes, they can do that for hours, and I'm just like, hello. Or it's like I'm trying to sleep. Like literally, I've been woken up because she can't sleep, so she'll start like watching TikTok videos, and she doesn't turn the sound down sometimes. And I'm just hearing like all this ridiculousness going on in the background. I'm like, thanks.
So you have really good reason to hate TikTok then.
Yeah, I do.
I think it's important that you pick the media that you're strong in. So I was reading an article every day and it was about how to market yourself. And their advice was be everywhere. On every platform and any opportunity that you have some kind of presence, even if it's little. Because on the off chance that somebody looks you up, they'll find you. And even if that is something that's not super active, you'll have your links there to all the other places that you are. And it all just ties it back together again. And then I think that's great. That would be great, like to be able to be found everywhere. But at the same time, wow, how do you balance that with being spread too thin? And how do you manage your time and manage mastering multiple social media outlets when you are just one person and it's already exhausting.
And that's
So-
the thing, is that authors like us, that's what we do. I mean, I spend my, if I'm not writing or working on my writing or editing, I'm working on my next social media post, trying to get something together. You know, my wife is constantly yelling at me, "Why are you on your phone?" She says, "I'm working on my post." I said, "Well, what, you stop." It's like, I got to get this done.
Yes.
You know, and when you have a regular 9 to 5 job, makes it even harder.
I know my family's always yelling at me that I'm always on my phone, and I'm like, yeah,
But I'm working.
I have
Yeah.
to do it because no one else is going to do it, right? Do you
Yep.
want to make my posts? You're more than welcome to. And I think taking advantage of cross posting is really important in this kind of thing. Like on Instagram, you can cross post to Facebook, to Twitter, and to Tumblr if you have a Tumblr. So you can make one post and then it goes everywhere, which is really handy. And then it's low maintenance if you don't want to be super invested in a platform. So that's what I do. Mark convinced me to create a Tumblr because we would have a special presence on Tumblr because Tumblr usually has more dark creatives on there, goths and emos and those kinds of people that would be into darker literature on Tumblr. So
And
we have a
nerds.
Tumblr now. And nerds.
Don't forget about the
A lot of
nerds.
nerds. And Grace has really taken on Twitter. So Twitter, it's Twitter. It makes me feel very tired.
Twitter is so weird because I've found that I never wanted it because I thought it was ridiculous. But one of my friends has been bugging me for years to get one. He's like, the author community on there is so great. You need to join it. And they are supportive. Like, I have all these people I don't even know, like constantly retweeting my stuff. And I'm like, who the hell are you? Why are you retweeting my stuff? And they're like compliment me on like the cover of my book. And I'm like, Twitter loves the cover of my book, but I don't think anyone's actually buying it. It's like, they'll support you in every way, but actually buying your book. Because I'm like, all retweets, but nobody's buying anything.
If I got 15 minutes for every time someone complimented my book, but then didn't buy it, I would live forever.
Right.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Twitter because it does have I think Twitter and Instagram are the two that have great author communities. That where they're supportive and they reach out to each other and things. I mean, that's how I found Curious Corvid, was through Instagram.
Right.
You know, that's how I found it. So I mean, it's one of those things of that. Those are great communities, but then when you start that, then you get the bots, and then you get I can't tell you how many times on Instagram I'm getting, "Hey, I'm a book reviewer. It's a paid service."
Yeah.
You know,
God, I hate
it's constant on Instagram, especially.
Yeah.
I ratted one bot out by just saying, you're not really supposed to ask for someone for a review and then say, "Here, I need money to review your book." Like, you just don't do that.
I know. I always remind people, like, don't be paying people to review your book. If they're an honest, upfront book reviewer, you can send them a copy, and that is enough. That should be enough.
I mean, I'll admit I did it a couple times early on in my, starting off. I've done some paid book reviews. I've done that, but
Yeah,
I did too with my novella.
yeah, I mean, but I haven't done it since that time. It's like, number one, I can't afford it. Number two, I would prefer that honest review.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because when you look at some of those paid reviews, it looks like they're copying from other people,
Yes.
which means they haven't read my book.
Right. I feel like they just read the blurb because they just regurgitated stuff from the blurb. And then I saw no corresponding bump in sales either. So I was like, well, that was a waste of $35, So I'll never see that money again.
I was talking with Danny O'Day about this not too long ago, because he went really hard for bookstagrammers to try to get bookstagrammers to review his book. And he had really good success with some of the indie book reviewers. But when he started to get in touch with some of the bigger bookstagrammer accounts, they were a little snobby. And they weren't very nice to him about his book. They didn't even give his book a chance. But because it was an indie book, they just immediately critiqued it for things that it didn't need critiquing for.
some of them, the big publishers just send them stuff to review because they know they have like a big social media presence. So they're just like, I don't need you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm getting time, you know?
Didn't they just judge him for the cover too?
Yeah, they judged him for the cover, which is a beautiful cover, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I get so many compliments on that cover from people all of the time, and they think that it's
Thank you.
beautiful.
It's too indie.
It's too. That's what
We
they
gotta-
said.
we
They're
gotta throw it
it's
away
too
and start
indie. Like
over
that's an
again.
insult or something. I don't know.
I'm gonna go back in with a photo of a guy, a stock photo, and real big font, James Patterson style. That's it.
I think I really struggle with talking about traditional publishing and indie publishing because I don't want to come off as being a snob or as but I have very strong opinions about how the indie community is treated. And I also have very strong opinions about what constitutes indie, because to qualify as an indie press, for instance, you can either publish less than 10 books a year or make less than $50 million a year.
Well, I would
To me,
question
that is a very huge
Yeah.
gap there to qualify
because
as
we've
an
been
indie.
coming out with books every month now.
I know. I'm like, does that make us like a big time publisher? Because we've done like more than 10 books in a year.
We've done a decade's worth in 1 year of what published.
And with less people.
Yeah.
Mark and I were talking about this with the Magpie when the Magpie came out, and Mark did all of that work by himself. And we built that
in like a week.
weeks.
And that was beautiful. That
Yeah,
first
amazing.
issue,
Thank you.
just beautiful.
I honestly, let me lean in conspiratorially as we would all write if we were writing a book. Mark leaned in conspiratorially to his mic and asked, I don't know what they're doing. Yeah. That took me a little over a week. 72 pages.
Look at the beautiful details on that. That is phenomenal.
Okay, to be fair, the cover took me longer because that was originally the cover, the rollout banner for the LA Times Festival of Books, and we like the artwork so much. We've been using it on a bunch of other things.
Oh, like even
But-
just getting this in the mail, it feels like a legit magazine.
Yeah, the quality, and we even accidentally went with the lower quality option because we didn't realize the difference between the options. So the next issue is going to be of even higher quality. But this, again, for the third time, took me a little over a week when typically it would take a whole team of designers to work on a magazine of that size for at least a month. The whole time I was working on it, after I had about finished it up, I couldn't help but think to myself, what are they doing with all that time? All that money?
I think about that a lot too, because besides, when it comes to doing the formatting and the listing and the marketing and everything, I'm basically a one-woman team. Mark has helped me immensely with marketing now. And obviously he does all of our graphic design and our branding. But I think about that a lot when I'm doing the work on the books and designing the insides and getting their listings set up and everything. I'm just like one person. What are they doing, these big companies? And I think about that. And then I also think, in March, the traditional publishing world had a massive walkout of their employees, designers, artists, graphic designers, editors, everybody that makes it all work together.
They're not getting the recognition. Yeah.
Massive walkout because they're not being respected, they're not being paid enough, all of these things. And it makes me question, like I looked up a statistic and it was, how much does it cost to produce one book? Like how much goes into creating a book? And it was like a $6,000 cost.
Wow.
To create one book, and that's it. And I was like, ow.
We're running pretty efficiently.
But
Yeah.
and then I'm like,
Yes.
That has to be why, like when you sign on, you get such low royalties to begin with. And then you also have to sell such a huge quantity of books before your royalties even kick in.
Huge investment.
It's like any big company. I guess it's like 90% of that money goes into the CEO's pocket.
Probably.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I can speak from a graphic designer from the industry's perspective. Graphic designers are typically good at one of two things: either good at making things or they're good at selling things. I'm good at making things. I'm not good at selling things. But there are plenty of designers out there who are not good at making things, but they are really good at convincing people that they are, and convincing people that they deserve a lot of money for what they do, even though they don't actually do very much. I encountered quite a few people like that in school. So I would imagine it's like that in all the creative realms. People might not actually be very good at making content, but they're good at selling the content that they make so that they can ask for a lot more time and a lot more money than somebody else make. And you see on Instagram, there are incredible illustrators and designers out there who get very little recognition for their work.
Very true.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
And writers, but of course writing is a little harder to share on social media than images.
Not only that, because there's just so much writing, and even in the art industry in general, there's just so much, and everyone's
Yes.
writing, so
As
Sure
much as I
is.
love the print on demand and the easy access to being able to print and publish books, it has opened it up so where everybody can do it. So there's like a huge influx of indie authors, and I think then less indie readers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
We need
like
better
I
gatekeeping.
released a quote. The other on my social media, I like to put out quotes by authors and about writing and creativity and things. And I put this quote out the other day: "Is if you write one story, it may be bad. If you write 100, you have the odds in your favor." Edgar Rice Burroughs said that, and somebody replied back to me saying, "Is that why people oversaturate the market with bad writing in the hopes they do it right once in a fluke?"
Oh
Damn.
God.
That's brutal.
Oh wow.
I mean, that actually is the kind of the business model behind like James Patterson. Like I'm sure you all know James
Yeah.
Patterson
Yeah.
is not all by actually James Patterson. It's the name that they're selling. And it's just a numbers game. Like most of the books that have James Patterson's name on them, not exactly winners. But every now and then you get one
Yeah.
that's real good. And they've already got the marketing platform there. So
And if you go to any book sale, like from a library book sale or anything like that, the majority of the books that are stacked there for sale are James Patterson hardbacks. That's
James
every-
Patterson or Danielle Steele.
Yeah,
everywhere.
Even Stephen King,
every
I
book
feel
sale
that.
I've been there, I've saturated with James Patterson.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
He's casting a wide net.
Yeah, really.
If you are so this makes me think then, okay, so we're writers, right? And we're writing, and we should always be writing, and we should always be coming up with new content. But if you have these big names out there like James Patterson, who has hundreds of titles and not all of them are very good, is it not better quality than to take your time with your story and have a better product rather than like just a whole crap ton?
Oh,
I'd
yeah,
rather have a better
absolutely. Yeah.
product. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on what your priority is, and I think that's part of what makes Curious Corvid unique is that we value quality over quantity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that we'll take a hit to sales if it means we can maintain the artistic integrity of what we make.
I'd rather please our local crowd with something that they can be happy to have and reread. I mean, that's the purpose of writing, is for readers, is you want to have a book that you can come back to and reread and still enjoy it as much as you can, like you read it the first time.
Yeah.
May not be like
Like-
but
But even for a small publisher, Curious Corvid is having great successes. I mean, I'm reading the post from Ravven all the time about #1 bestseller in poetry, #1 award-winning science fiction. We're doing it, and again I'm going to put this on Ravven because she's doing a lot of that hard work. It's doing a great job for a small publisher that's still able to slowly building on that success.
Yeah, definitely.
It has been important to me, like from the very beginning, that it was about integrity and authenticity
Mhm.
and about creating like long lasting literature that, like David said, you would come back to again and again.
Mm.
And I read all the time. I consume lots of books, and there are some titles that I have read that I enjoyed and I thought they were good, but I will never read them again. It was a one and done deal for me, you
Mhm.
know, and I don't think that makes it a bad book. I think it isn't one that will transcend time, at least not in my personal world. And so I think finding readers that identify with wanting to reread you and wanting to be invested in you and read everything that you have. When I was a when I was a teenager, I was really into this author named Avi, and he wrote
Poppy,
yes.
right?
Yes.
I loved that book. Yeah.
Yes. He had all kinds of stories, and I loved that. I loved his writing style because he was a little bit weird, and a lot of his stories had a darker edge to them. And I loved his books. I read every single one that I could find when I was a teenager, and
Mhm.
I think fondly of that, you know. And that was when I was reading his books. He was like what I wanted to be when I was older. Like I wanted people to read my books the way that I read Avi. And so that just kind of carried with me into my writing journey and wanting to create, like when I write my poetry and I create my poetry books, I take a lot of pride in their vulnerability and their rawness, and making them as powerful and as meaningful as I can, so that when you read them, you feel something, hopefully something good.
Right.
But it's something that you would come back to, like if you're having a bad day and there was a piece that like particularly spoke to you, or something like that, you know.
Mhm.
But I think there's so much power to be had when you take your time to really develop your craft.
Yeah, that's always important.
It's
For-
just, yeah,
for-
you don't want to feel like, oh, I just crapped that one out, you know, like kind of like by it, you know.
For me, it was Michael Moorcock in the Elric series. That was what kickstarted me into wanting to be a fantasy writer. Was
Wow.
reading his because I read and reread his stories all the time. He's just his writing showed me that with fantasy could be anything you want it to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool when you look back, and when you're a writer and you look back and like at who influenced you and what you were reading, and kind of just how it has shaped you and into what it is that you're driven to create now. And I just think that's so fascinating. And like when I was young, when I was like in my teenage years and stuff, I read Avi a lot. I read all of his books, but I also read a lot of the classics. So I really loved like Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights and Frankenstein. And I was obsessed with Sherlock Holmes. I wanted to be Sherlock Holmes. I had like a
doesn't wanna be
notebook
Sherlock
where I would
Holmes?
like write down my observations and stuff, because I wanted to like, I just wanted to emulate him so bad because I thought he was so cool.
Everybody's always wanted to be as cool as Holmes and be like,
No one will be.
Did I ever notice that much stuff and like figure out all this much stuff from just like noticing these little things? So yeah, everybody I think has played that game at some point or another.
Oh, was that I think that too, like, and Charles Dickens. I loved Charles Dickens too when I was younger. And I was homeschooled, and my cousin was in a regular high school, and they were reading Oliver Twist, and then they read A Tale of Two Cities. And I was like, oh my God, I'll read it with you. Like, I'll read it here, and then we can like compare notes. And he was like, why do you want to read that? This stuff is awful. And I was like, no, it's not. Thank you. But one of the ways that a lot of those authors got started was by sharing their chapter releases in literary magazines and journals, and just chapter release by chapter release through, you
Their
know,
works would be serialized through printing presses. Yeah.
All the home stuff was like that. Those were also real. Yeah.
And I wasn't Poe like that also, I believe.
yes, he was.
Yeah, he was.
Yes.
He wanted to start his own press and literary magazine as well, but
He was
H.P.
trying to
Lovecraft was also like that,
Yeah.
which is one of the big attractions, I think, to the Magpie. It's that return of releasing your work and having people have a look at it, you know, chapter by chapter or by short story, and being able to feature yourself in a way that it's not how do I want to put it? It doesn't put you out at all because you're not at risk for anything. You're not losing access to your titles or to your creative freedoms or anything like that. It just gives you a place to share your work and get seen a little bit, which I think is really cool. And I like that throwback to the age of Dickens and Poe and the greats, as I like to call them.
But the one thing I can honestly say is I think something we have as independent authors today is our influence on the next generation. One of my recent events, I was down in Williamsburg, and this young 10-year-old kid walked up. The last time I was there, he bought my first book, Forever Avalon, and he came up and said he loved it, he read it, and now he started writing his own stuff, and he was asking me for advice on how, he was having trouble figuring things out, and he was asking me for some advice on how he should get started. And that just struck a chord with me. It's like, that was, I think, the first time I've had somebody, especially at that age, who came up and not only liked what I wrote, but inspired him to start writing himself.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's like seriously like my main goal in a way. It's like if I knew definitively, like somebody read something that I wrote and it was like their absolute favorite thing, and even better yet, made them, inspired them to go on, like do something really cool. I would be like, mission accomplished. I can die happy now.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
I think that's a
Just
goal
take
for
one good real fan to make it all worth it.
Yeah.
I think what we get, I think sometimes we get a little bit hung up on our numbers and like our following and our engagement and how many likes we're getting or how many people are actually following us. And it can sometimes be a little bit discouraging when you're putting in all that hard work and you're not seeing as much of a reward or a give back as you would like. But I was talking with somebody about it the other day, and those people that do consistently like your posts and share your stuff and actively follow you those are the only ones that actually matter.
Yep, absolutely.
Because they're the ones who are actually invested in who you are as a person and more likely to engage with your content and buy your books. And that is how I think you really build loyal followers and readers. Is it starts out kind of slow, but all it takes is just a couple people to show interest, and then they tell other people or they share your stuff with other people, and it just kind of grows from there. And I think that when it comes to long-term success as a writer, it's all about the small growth, small and steady, building that solid foundation and being able to have the patience to stick it out, because I think that's also really hard and very discouraging sometimes, because you put so much effort into your content, into your writing, into just living and breathing, trying to make it work as a writer on top of life being life already. So I think
there's
it's
definitely a writer's remorse that you develop when you feel like you haven't done enough as a writer, and you go into this deep dark hole of depression. And I think we've all had that kind of effect before.
I have to ask, since we're saying, so whenever I write a book and publish it, I won't look at it. So I have a copy for myself, but I've never actually gone back through and read the whole thing front to finish. Does anybody else? Do you guys go back through and look at your finished books like afterwards and read them through?
So for me, like I've only done it if I have to refer to something, like for continuity. Like I'm like, what was the name of the secret society that I in the first book? Like, what was their formal name? And I'm like, okay, I know what page that's on. Okay, there it is. Oh damn, I was so close, but I didn't quite get it right. And then I go and edit it. So mainly it's just that, or just to hold and be like, I can't believe this is real.
It's real.
Yeah.
I go back and I reread like some of my favorite parts. I think that's what, for me, I enjoy that mostly, is you have that one part or a couple parts in the book that you just enjoy. I like going back to them. And again, I'm like Robert, I go back for reference sake. If it's a part of a series, I trying to reference things. But yeah, for the most part, I've never, because I've reread it so many times. When when you edit something, you're going through it 3, 4, 5 times.
Oh yeah.
You've read it so much, it's like, okay, I can't just do the whole thing again. You can't.
I know. I look
Sick
at
of
it
it.
so much. I do. I just get sick of it. And I'm like, I don't ever want to look at this again.
Yeah, I'm like, when I'm 65, maybe I'll read it and I'll hopefully I'll be like, oh, this was good.
That sounds like a Beatles song. When I'm 64.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
the familiar breeds contempt. The more familiar we are with it, the less
Mhm.
we tend to like it. And we forget that to someone else this is completely fresh and new. And we think, oh, I'm sick of this. And sometimes we get into the headspace of I'm sick of this. And so no one else is going to like it too. But we forget that it's completely new to them and they haven't
Right.
read it 16 times. And they are probably not going to read it 16 times, at
Yeah.
least not in a short period of time.
No, and they're not there for the whole journey either. They just get to see the finished final product. So they don't
Right.
see all the other stuff that goes into it and all the hardship and late nights and coffee and tears that have gone into it behind the scenes.
What helped me is like after, like, for example, I published Ashes, I left that alone because like everyone else is saying, you've edited it so many times, you went through it so many times, you just get sick of it. But then after having some space away, I picked up the book again and I just like read the beginning part. And then I found a tiny detail that I'm like, oh, you know, I could expand upon that. Oh, well, this sounds inspirational to write a prequel to that part, to that tiny detail that I said. So I think in the long run, sure, it's helpful to go back to your book because you never know if you might find inspiration within your own book to write something new and completely different.
That's a good
After
point.
some
David,
time.
I had the same experience. I went back to reference something after putting it horizontal down after publishing it and just be like, okay, I'm done. Let's leave this alone for a while. And then I went back to reference something and I just got caught up reading it for a couple chapters because I hadn't looked at it in a while. And I thought to myself, this is
Yeah,
pretty good, actually.
that's the writer's trap, is that if you go back and reread something and you're looking at it saying, oh, I should have written it this way. Wait,
Yeah.
no, that you want to change things. It's like, no, you can't. It's already published.
Yep. When I published my first book, I did that so much that I ended up releasing a second edition.
My content so far has just been poetry books. Not like just poetry, but you know what I mean. So
Right.
my first like actual novel comes out in October and I'm absolutely petrified because that's poetry is pretty much just how everybody knows me because that's all I've ever done. And then one day I was just like, so yeah, I like wrote a novel. So I'm nervous about that because it's my first time really stepping outside of my comfort zone, which is
It
poetry.
sounds so good, just like the little bits you put up there. It sounds so good. I'm like, oh damn, like it's gonna be good. So don't.
I sent it. I got it back from Anna, who she's just amazing. She's such a good editor, and I just got it back from her, and it was like all, marked up, like not terribly or anything, but I felt relieved, like going through and looking at it because I was like, okay, we're polishing it up, and it's gonna look fantastic. It's gonna be fine. And Mark's gonna make the cover, so it'll look really pretty.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So people will want to buy it just because of how it looks, which is fine with me.
When people say things like you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, it's very hurtful to those of us who design book covers.
Because that's what's going to make somebody buy the
Yeah.
book. The first thing you can do is look at that cover and say,
Yeah.
is this something
Honestly,
I
Yeah,
want?
I have
gotta grab
readers
you.
that tell me all the time, is there going to be a hard copy for that? Is there a hardcover for that? I'm like, I guess.
David, I designed your book cover originally to have a wraparound dust cover and everything, and then Ravven sent me the proofs for it, and I said, "Oh, this doesn't have a dust cover."
No,
Well, that's
just
disappointing.
paperback for poetry books for now. Once David takes off and he's like super famous, then we'll make hard editions of all of his books, all of his
Well,
poetry.
I
books.
will keep that file ready for that day.
Golden edged pages too. Gilded.
Yeah, golden edge.
Yeah.
There we go.
Right.
For Moonglade, the silver
Mwah.
looks really nice.
Yeah.
With that
the
dark
silver
blue.
satin
That
ribbon on
would,
it,
yeah,
you know?
silver would be perfect for that.
Maybe embossed as well.
Ooh.
Mwah. Delicious content.
Really deluxe editions there.
Mm.
That's the one
Get
thing
it
I'm looking
printed
for.
through Edinburgh Press.
That's the one thing I'm looking forward to. My first, not my novella, because I know it's too short. Ravven already said it's too short for a hardcover, but my first full novel with Curious Corvid, I'm so looking forward to the hardcover version of that. 'Cause
dude.
I have never had one of my books as a hardcover.
You've
Yeah.
ever had
It's gonna be
hardcover
a
book?
first, and I'm gonna be excited for
Oh
that.
my goodness. Well, I'm
I'm
really
excited
excited
for
to
that
make that
too.
happen.
Same here, because I just have the one book and it's in paperback. And it's like now, KDP has some kind of hardcover option, but I just don't even feel like going there. I'm just like, I'm done with it, So yeah, I'm looking forward to having a hardcover because I was super disappointed when I released it that I didn't have that option.
Oh, yeah. I guess I never thought about that because, yeah, that hardcover through KDP is really new.
Yep.
So when we did Ray's book came out on July 15th, and she through when I do Ingram for novels, they do hardbacks and they do paperbacks for both. But for KDP, we have to format it differently for their preferences, basically. So hers was the first hardcover book that I have a physical copy of from KDP, and I have to say they were really nice. Like, I wasn't sure what the quality would be like since it's still in the beta programming, basically still, but it was actually really nice and quite lovely. So I was happy to see it turned out really good. So
Yeah,
I
I
will be
know.
so excited, Mark, to get you your first hardcover, and Robert, your first hardcover too. That's super exciting for your novels. I have in my kitchen is where I have my desk set up, where I do all of the orders and I manage all of Curious Corvid pretty much. And we have a fireplace, and on either side of the fireplace are big hutches with cabinets, and that's where I put all of the books that I have on stock, all the signed copies. So I just have them filled with books everywhere. Just slowly adding to my
Mausoleum.
I have to make mention of this, Raven. Do you realize it's you and the four bearded men here?
Oh
We could start a boy band.
That's ZZ Top, okay?
yeah. There's another lady.
Look at the puppers.
Yep.
How cute. Oh my
Going
goodness.
away.
Well, I'm really excited for everything we have coming out of Curious Corvid with you guys. And then next month is really exciting for us because we will be adding new people to our house for the first time since Curious Corvid opened. You guys are all the original authors, which I think is fantastic and exciting. And I was really excited to create the Corvid Grimoire with David. That was his idea originally, and then I just kind of took and ran with it. Sorry, Dave. But I was so
Raven, we're growing. We have several authors. We need to create an anthology for everyone. So
well, that's what I'm kind of thinking of doing every year is a Corvid Grimoire, like the second edition or whatever.
That becomes an annual thing. That'll be awesome.
That would be great. I would love
That's what
that.
I would really like to do. And as we grow, then we have new ones featuring the new authors as we grow our house. And I think it'll just be really, really interesting. But I'm so excited to start talking with people. I've been reading through all the manuscripts. So we got 10 submissions this year for new people into the house. Most of them were novelists, although I did get a couple poets, which is, always good to have a diversity. So I'll be in talks with them pretty soon. And Anna, our editor, she has been reading through the submissions as well so that we can kind of work together on what we think would blend into the house really nice. I'm excited about that because the last time I did it all by myself and it was really overwhelming. So I'm excited to have somebody else kind of helping me balance it all out. So my altruism sometimes gets the best of me too. So having someone be a firm ground in realism is important when you're making decisions that involve other people. So, but a lot of the people that submitted are really active members of the community already, which I just think is really nice because I think that shows their dedication and that they really do want to be part of everything. And then on top of all of that, I'm sure you've seen all the posts I've been making about our new merchandise in our store. So
yeah, yesterday I was like, we're selling goblets now.
Yes.
I said that to my wife. I was like, what's up with that? I was like, they're cool.
So
I felt like I was in like a pagan witch shop looking through all that.
the idea behind that was to make a little bit of extra income for Curious Corvid at no cost to us.
Yeah, that's what she said. And I was like, okay, that's cool. It's cool.
And I thought how it would be kind of cool since we have like all this really fantasy and gothic literature to have things in our shop that would reflect that aesthetically for like people's libraries.
Right.
Help decorate your libraries for all the Curious Corvid books that you're going to have.
Oh, yeah. I'm probably going to get
Right.
one at some point. I mean,
One
'cause they're-
stop
they are-
shopping
they are
in
your
genuine.
goth
I
library.
already ordered one of the goblets, by the way.
David bought a goblet already, a blue one.
Yeah.
Those skull planters are very tempting.
My mom was on the website and she saw the skull planters, and I saw her yesterday. She's like, "How much are they? I have to have them for my birthday."
Yeah, I didn't know about those. I bet if I show my wife that, she'll want one. I'll bet. So I'll have to show her.
So we have that, which is, it's all drop shipping. So it's nice for us because then it's fulfilled by other people. So we just have the benefits of having it listed on our website. But Mark has been busy making alternative merchandise for Curious Corvid. And if you go on there now, you'll see he made a design and it's so cool. And it says, everybody has a little dark side. And there's buttons and pins and shirts, which is really cool. And I think will appeal to people who maybe don't necessarily want to wear Curious Corvid merchandise specifically yet, because, you know, we're still building our name, but who would enjoy having some mystical or dark aesthetic type
People
stuff.
who get the
Me too.
vibe.
You get it in the Hot Topic, you'll have it made.
Yeah, I will say, I've been wearing one of the shirts that Mark designed for my book Ashes, and I've been wearing it to work, and then people like are so like drawn into it that they ask me about it, and then they end up scanning the barcode on the shirt. So
That's great.
yeah, so that's paying off. I mean, yeah.
Mark added
Welcome
a new
aboard.
feature to our website too, so that whenever someone logs onto the website, there's a little chat bubble now. So if they have any questions or they have any issues, they can chat with me directly because I keep the app on my phone. And it's, I think, going to be a really helpful tool for people in general. But what I think is super cool about it is that every time someone goes on the website, I get a notification and it tells me that there's somebody on the website and it tells me where they're from. So we've had people from literally all over the world on our website over this last week, and I get notifications all the freaking time from like, I'm trying to think, we had a bunch of them from the UK, from Canada, from Australia, from New Zealand, like just everywhere, like all over the place. And then of course, lots of people in the United States too, but
The goal is to get you so many notifications like that that you eventually have to turn them off.
yeah, it'll just shut down my phone. It'll just like freeze up.
The phone will explode in your hand. And it'll just burst into flames.
That's the dream, right? Oh, I just got one right now. I'm guessing that's let's see, Virginia.
That's me.
I figured.
Because I hadn't seen the merchandise yet, so I wanted to check it out.
Every time Bedford, Ohio pops up, I'm like, oh, David's on.
Yeah, because I go on there and share a bunch of links and copy and paste them. Because I figure, because what I like is to, if people are interested, I always give the link directly to the publisher because I love the gift package that you put in the books included with the bookmarks and everything else that comes with it. I mean, I get comments all the time on that and they love the presentation. So that's, you know, that makes them want to come back for more. So
I love making the packages too.
Yeah.
Packaging the books and sending them out is honestly one of my most favorite parts about it. And I make all of the thank you cards by hand. So I just went to the paper store like 2 days ago, actually, to restock our supplies so I can make more cards. And I make 100 cards in one go. And it only cost me $25 to make the cards myself for 100 of them. So it works out really nice.
And we are looking into in the future adding functionality to make bundles with some of the products that we offer with books so that people can buy them and Ravven doesn't have to put those bundles together themselves. And we have a huge catalog with drop shipping of interesting stuff. So if you are interested in certain products being added to the store and especially bundled with your book, you might be able to talk to Ravven about that and figure something out because there's a lot of possibilities there. And also stay tuned on the main hub because I'm planning a big overhaul of that when I have a chance.
awesome.
Will we be able to get like some of it for like when we do events, like the buttons and things that you were mentioning before, Ravven?
Yeah.
For authors, we'll be able to get some for like for events and things.
Yes, if there's anything that you want, as long as you tell me ahead of time, I can order them for you, and I'll order them at cost.
Okay.
So they'll be way cheaper for you in the long run too. And then
Okay,
they'll just
great.
have them
Thank
sent
you.
directly to your house. Same thing with books. If you ever have events coming up or anything like that, usually what I do is you just say, "Hey, I want this many books," and I'll order them for you. And then you pay for the print cost and the shipping, and then you just keep the profit
one
of the
second.
books for whatever you sell. So it just kind of works out really nice that way, that you have what you need and then you don't have to pay, full price for it. So, but yeah, so if there's ever any merchandise that you want to have available at your signings and stuff, just let me know and I'll get them for you. And it usually works out pretty good. So,
And if you need anything custom for your book, you know who to call.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah. They're very reliable.
That's
I've-
always
I've been thinking that a lot of people would like maybe some of the illustrations in their books on shirts and merch and stuff like that.
definitely.
I've got a whole Redbubble store of all the illustrations in my book.
Redbubble's nice. Redbubble suspended my account. I don't know why.
Redbubble has not been nice to you for whatever reason. We never did figure
They were
that.
just like, you know what? No, we're not having you on our platform. Thanks.
No.
Yeah, I
Bye.
old stuff I made on TeePublic, but I haven't. Oddly, I've never put any of the illustrations that I made for my books on there. But it's funny, like I got a notification the other day. It's like I sold like stickers from a design that I made like years ago, and I'm like, I can get stickers. It's like I didn't even know that I could do that. I just thought it was just t-shirts. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Somebody wants stickers of that design.
Mark, I wanted to ask you, by the way, for all of the books that you have previously published, is there a way that you could get me one copy of each one, and then I'll pay for them and I'll put them in a book bundle through Curious Corvid to go with your new novella, so we have like the whole collection of your.
No, absolutely. I'll get that together and get it out to you this week.
Perfect.
The
That would be
definitive Mark Bigot collection.
I think I love it. So I think it's so cool. Like as you have more titles to create the bundles, so you have like all of the books. Like even if they're outside of Curious Corvid, I don't even care. I just think it's really nice to it shows your progress as an author, and it gives everybody a chance to just really enjoy what you have going on. And I think it's really cool.
Well, that's
Yeah, I
the
was
one thing
gonna say-
you and I had talked about was was it possible for my previous self-published works to come under Curious Corvid, especially since you're going to be publishing future books within that series.
Yes.
And so that's something I know we've been discussing.
Yes. I it's hard sometimes depending on who you're publishing through, because when you self-publish through Amazon and you use all of their I like to call it equipment, all of their tools and stuff, then your book technically belongs to Amazon. And then if you want to republish it, you have to like redo it, you have to rename it, it has to have a new ISBN
That's
number.
what I
It's
did
like a
with,
whole big thing.
Yeah, that's what I
So-
did with Moonglade.
It just
So-
depends on how attached you are to your book, and if you're willing to just completely redo it and start over. And if you're not, that's okay, because there's a lot of books that are published through multiple publishing companies. My husband reads R.A. Salvatore, which is the Drist series of fantasy books, and the Salvatore has gone through, I don't know, 3 or 4 publishers, and his books now are like different shapes and sizes because they all have different specifications. But my husband doesn't care because he's a very loyal reader and he collects all of his books anyway. So,
Wish Danny collected my books.
he has a copy of your book. I bought him one. It's a hard copy.
It's sitting on the dining table, last I heard.
Actually, it's on. So I have on my writing desk, I have shelves on next to it, and I have all of the indie books that I have purchased from other indie authors. And then on the very top, I have my proud little stack of you guys' books that I have published. So your book is in that stack.
Danny, if you're watching this, Quit making excuses. You gotta support the indie community. You gotta support this indie community specifically.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, I think if he were here, he would say, "Will you babysit my child?"
That's exactly what he would say. That's what he always says.
But yeah, we have so many cool things I think coming up throughout the rest of this year and going into next year. And a reminder, just putting this out there for anybody who watches now or later, if you're part of the house currently, if you have any projects, make sure I know about them so I can put them on the calendar. And everybody who's in this chat right now, I already have your books. Don't worry about it. I already have you on the calendar tentatively, or we could talk about like when, but at least I have you scheduled for sometime next year. So Robert, your next book is a vampire themed one, isn't it?
Yeah, the one with the vampires and the werewolves.
Yes. So I was thinking
Vampires Curse.
I was thinking like that stuff like October vibes for Halloween.
Oh yeah. And it's even set around that, like it's in, technically it happens in September, but it's like late September. So it's in the fall.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it.
That's like one of my favorite ones, because I feel like some of my books, like the plots get a little convoluted, which I like to some extent. I think that's what makes them cool. But that one I feel like has the most straightforward plot. And maybe it's one of those ways why it's one of my favorites. And it's the oldest one, because I started writing that when I was like 15. And then
sentimental value.
Went away. Yeah, sentimental. I wrote it, partially to impress a girl. I'm still friends with her, but she's not my wife, but she almost was once. But yeah. I'm just happy I like finally finished the story, and then I was like happy with how it turned out. So yeah, that one has a special place in my heart.
That's
for
nice.
sure.
I like that.
Robert, when does your next book come out?
The next November. I've got like 2 coming out.
Yes. Okay. Robert's really cool because he writes all of the time, and I don't know how you managed to do this.
I'm actually taking a break, and I've just been doing poetry lately.
Well, prior to your break, he just pops out short stories non-freaking stop.
I did like 21 in about a year.
Yeah, it's
That's
a lot.
Whole collection almost, right?
Yeah,
there.
well,
Robert,
so,
it is.
Yeah, so Robert is so cool. I'm really excited about it. So for Robert's book, the one that we'll be publishing is technically the second book in his series. And he has these short stories so correct me if I'm wrong, but your books are supposed to be in the same universe, same characters, but they're able to be read as standalones.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Is I like it when they can work as like you don't have to read them in order. The story should make enough sense that anybody can just pick it up and you'll be like, okay, I understand this. And if you didn't like it, you don't have to read the next one. And because I don't do like massive cliffhangers, like you get a self-contained story in each book.
And then on top of that, the short stories that he writes are like little side quest adventures basically for his main character. Right. So it kind of ties it all together. So
or even just minor characters, like there are people that are like mentioned, like and then I'm like, I could do a whole story on that little thing that this person just mentioned. And then I'm like, why don't I? And I just go and do it.
So I'm so excited because Robert has 2 books coming out. He will have his second book, which is the second book in his series. But then we're doing a 1.5 book to bridge 1 and 2 together. And it will be a collection of the short stories that happens between book 1 and book 2.
King, love it.
I'm so excited about it.
I want to see what you can do, Mark, with the cover for that, because I already
glad to
like some cover ideas, because I totally want to go like this retro, like 80s, 90s kind of like horror novel style that you never see.
You guys should start talking now.
I love it. Delicious.
Yeah, I get so bored when I look at like a lot of modern like books in general, like the covers, like we were talking about earlier, but especially horror books. And then you look at ones from like the 70s and the 80s. Oh yeah, not yours, but
no. You don't want it to look too indie.
Yeah,
might alienate some readers.
But I look at the aesthetic of those old books and I'm like, why did they ever abandon this, man? Like this was like, these are as good as like, or better than like movie posters. So like a well done, even movie posters nowadays are boring now. They're just photo collages half the time.
Yeah. Oh, they always are. If you guys
Yeah.
ever are interested in seeing some really good design, look up the graphic designs for movie posters for some Marvel movies. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll find it. But they made all of these absolutely gorgeous, more graphical, more focused on like the concept and the artwork rather than just being a photo collage like Robert is describing. And it's magnificent, the art that some of them make. And then obviously they don't go with that because viewers want name recognition. They want the actors.
That's
Which is
crazy.
a shame. But the potential is out there, and there's just such magnificent art available. And I like the sound of it, and I look forward to working with you.
Yeah, I think like I'm super excited to see what the cover of that like collection, that 1.5 book is gonna look like. Because I want to recapture like that lost like retro magic, you know, so much with that.
Speaking of short stories, I wanted to ask Ravven, what's the deadline again for the Harvest Magpie Messenger?
Oh, September 1st.
Okay.
And then we'll have Circus after that, which is open until October 1st. And then we have Frost after that, which is open until December 1st. So I'm going to be posting a lot about that on social media coming up to get some submissions as far out as possible so that it's an easy put together. So we have had a lot of really cool submissions for Harvest so far. So, well, we still have room for more, but I'm really excited because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, one of the great things about the way that we make the messenger is that it's a lot of work overall, but it's not a lot of work to add one entry or a few entries. We have a lot of flexibility with adding a little bit. Like the minimum page count that we have to have is 72 pages, but adding more pages beyond that is not a lot of difficulty, and it's negligible added cost to the manufacturing.
Yeah.
So if you have something, Robert, that you want to add in a short form, go for it.
She's already got all my stories, and I'm just kind of like, so I'm, and we've already decided we're going to put those in the 0.5 books, but I was kind of like, I didn't know if like it would be cool to like put some of those in some of the messengers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would put like a teaser one. Yeah.
Yeah. You could.
I'll make you a
yes,
spread promoting that it's coming out, a whole collection of them.
I mean, that would be the Harvester one would be the one because that's right around the time that it's supposed to come out. So yeah, maybe one of those stories, maybe one of the shorter ones or something. Because sometimes like they kind of they skirt the edge of short story and novella a bit.
Yeah, some of yours are quite hefty.
Yeah, some of them I'm like, this is a book. Like I'm just not calling it that. But it's like some of them get to be like 80 pages, 120 pages, and I'm like, I definitely as a kid I had some books that were like that length, and it was just that story. But yeah, maybe we can find one of the shorter ones to put in there. Definitely.
I think that would be great. I'm really excited.
Awesome.
I think it'll be really cool to have, a mixture of people in and outside of Curious Corvid in the writing community, and just be able to showcase all of the diverse talent that there is. All of the people that were in the first edition of the Magpie, those were all people that actually had submitted to our house, and then I sent them personal invitations to participate in the first Magpie Messenger. So that was really exciting to see what everybody had to say.
I'm sure they really liked not just getting a flat no, because we've all been there. We've all gotten the flat no.
Oh yeah.
Which is better than no response at all, admittedly. But to be told, I can't publish your work as a book, but I like it and I want to publish it somewhere is way better.
Yeah, it's something at least.
Yeah.
Here's some kind of outlet for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's validation and recognition that everybody wants.
Submitting is scary. I haven't done it in a long time, and then A friend of mine was sending me some different publications coming out, and she was like, I really think that your work would do well here. So I submitted, and I was like, oh my God, this is so scary. Oh, so then now we have to play the waiting game to hear back to see if I get accepted. And I'm like, this is not, I don't like this. This is why I created a house, so I never had to deal with rejection.
Welcome back to the other side.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I have a bunch of rejection letters that I could literally post every single letter in my attic and it would cover my entire attic.
You should make an art piece out of it, an
I know.
installation.
There you go.
Wow.
Not a bad idea, actually.
Kudos to keep on trying though, seriously, because yeah.
And Raven's house was actually the very first one I was not rejected. So I was just like,
Me too.
Same here.
Yep.
I got lucky because that was the first one I went to.
We were all like,
Luck
oh,
of
we
the
tried
draw.
so hard, we got rejected so much. Robert's over here, first try.
Oh, but the first, actually, she rejected me, and then I sent a different book, and then
This
She
is
was like-
true. This is
Right.
wow. Really?
it did reject me, but it was mainly just because it's on KDP, and she's like, we can't like republish this because it's already out there and it's Amazon and stuff. But then I sent the second one. She's like, okay, yeah, this one's awesome.
So I got to give you your first rejection and your first acceptance.
That's right.
Wow.
Oh.
Truly a one-stop shop. A whole experience.
Oh, that's funny.
That's why I was like with Dave. I was like, man, like I could not. I don't know that I could keep on doing those many rejections. I would have just been like, screw it, self-publishing.
That's what Danny said when he wrote Last Man in Cleveland. He got so many rejections for it that I was like the very last place he sent it to. And he told his girlfriend, he was like, if I don't get accepted here, I'm just going to put it away and I'm not going to look at it. And we're just going to move on in our life.
Like,
And I was like, hey, so let's publish this.
how many like lost masterpieces are there? You know, because that happens.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh.
with the way the industry is, with only publishing things that are marketable,
Yeah.
countless.
Anything is marketable. You just
Right.
have to have the
Right.
time and patience to actually get it out there.
You just
And
have
if
to
it's
find
not-
out- yeah.
Yeah. Well, if it's not going to make cash like right away, then it's going to be a lot harder to get people to be invested in it.
Very true.
That's okay though, because we're here to win the race, slow but steady.
There's like a great example of that recently that I can't think of.
The tortoise and the hare.
Why am I bringing it up? But
Tortoise
but
and
if somebody who like they released something a long time ago and like then like you and it happens all the time with movies. You see like movies and they're like a flop and then they get a cult following years later. You know,
It's a
and it's,
Wonderful Life is one of those movies.
Well,
Yeah.
you know the author who wrote the Percy Jackson series.
Rick
Those
Riordan.
that's like a huge I can't think of a word I'm trying to think of, but anyway, it exploded. It became a New York Times bestseller, but it wasn't until like the third or fourth book. You know, he was just writing and minding his own business and just doing what he does, and he didn't blow up until like 3 or 4 books in. And then all of a sudden everything was like huge, and there was movies and special deals and everything, and it's like you have to, and I think this is the hardest part, but you have to exude confidence and you have to believe in your work. Nobody is going to believe in your work as much as you should. Now, hopefully your publisher does, because that's going to be very influential in your success. Because if your publisher doesn't believe in you, then I don't really know what they're doing with your work. But you have to be the one to be like, yes, I know the value of my work. I know that this is something that is going to be worthwhile. And I'm going to just stick with it and keep putting myself out there until I find a place where it will fit in.
Yep,
You
that's what I did with
have to.
my new book that's coming up, Lightways. I wrote it back in 2012, and I just knew it's a good story. I need to hold on to it, and I've edited it through the years because I believed in it. And now it's getting published by Quill Keepers Press. So yeah, I completely agree with that, Raven, so much. Like anything worth doing is worth doing well. So
You're just going to be everywhere in the indie community now, David.
that's the goal.
You did say be everywhere.
I did. Yeah. It's so funny because the lady who runs Coal Keepers, Stephanie Lamb, she's so nice, and we have a really good working relationship. We have a really nice friendship, and I just really appreciate the fact that there are other presses out there that we can get along with and we share space with, and it isn't a competition. And I share resources with her, and she shares resources with me, and it's just really nice. And when David had submitted to Quill Keepers, Stephanie had privately messaged me and been like, hey, one of your authors sent me a submission, and I just wanted to talk to you about it first and make sure that it was okay and that it wouldn't be stepping on your toes to represent him or to publish his work. And I was like, oh no, it's fine. I totally told him to submit anyway. So I really enjoy them and what they're doing, and they're just a really nice, wholesome part of the community.
Definitely agree. When I talked to Stephanie the first time, she's very sweet, and we had a long conversation, and she told me how awesome you are, Raven, of course. So I'm just like, yeah, we're gonna get along just fine and peachy.
Yes. It's exciting to see everybody grow and see, like, from the time that I first knew you, like, I was reflecting back on, for many of you, it's coming up on a year now since I first like met you and like signed your contracts and stuff like that. And, thinking about how much Curious Corvid has changed in the time that I have known you, how much I have changed, and watching all of you blossom and change too. And you have things going on now in your life and in your writing life. And it's just really cool to see it all kind of come together and turn into something so interesting.
My first year is coming up on the 25th of this month, so in a few days.
I know Mark's is, I think we passed yours, Mark.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, because I was looking through some old.
I was the third author signed on
recently. Yeah, David was right after me. I was second. Jennifer was before me.
Jennifer was first. Jennifer was the very first.
Yeah, I found the contract. It's in my filing cabinet over there. I happened upon it a couple days ago, and I was like, huh, lots changed in a year. Hard to believe it's just been a year for how much has changed.
Yeah, I know. It was funny because Jennifer has her second book coming out on August 10th. And it's the Nature of Night poetry collection. And she was the first person that I published outside of my own book. And it was really funny because when I started the press, I started it just so I could do my own stuff. And I was eventually going to like publish other people, but I was really nervous about diving into that. And then Jennifer and I had been part of a different poetry group that had disbanded, and she messaged me and she was like, so I have a book. Would you be interested in publishing me? And I was like, sure. So hers was the first one that I did. And it was just, it will always have a really special place in Curious Corvid and in my heart, because it was that first dive into being responsible for somebody else outside of me. And the fact that she came back is really good.
So I was the first stranger that you published.
Yes, you were the first stranger.
And you went with science fiction.
I did. When I opened up your email, when I just read through the introduction, I remember I looked at my husband and I said, I want to work with him so badly because he actually loves what he's doing. And he has so much like passion and excitement about his book. And then I went through and I actually read through what he had sent me. And I was like, I really like this. I just think this is really special. But the first thing that I knew that I wanted to work with you is because of how passionate you were in your email and how excited you were about what you were writing. And I was like, that is the kind of person that I want to work with.
Yeah. Plus science fiction and Gothic are like
they're hand in hand. They really are.
Well,
I mean-
as we all know, science fiction was invented by Mary Shelley. So
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
exactly right.
And then Poe kind of took it ahead too, and then it went all the way to Lovecraft. So yes, we have plenty of horror rooted authors that develop science fiction.
I
I
think
have
what
a
attracted me
undead
to like
skeleton thing. Still got the goth in there.
I think what attracted me to all of you was not necessarily whether you identified as gothic or even dark literature per se. It was that all of you had interesting stories and you were all authentic people and you were real and there was nothing pretentious about you and you were just so happy to be given an opportunity. And I knew that I could work with that because I was
Well-
also equally happy to have the opportunity.
I'm guessing I speak for all of us when I say you attracted the right kind of people in how you worded your ads and how
Yeah.
I
you
guess so.
put out your presence on Instagram. Because I'm sure everybody else did the same thing that I did. When we saw your ad or however we saw you, we looked through your Instagram post, check you out, see what Curious Corvid is like, and we liked what we saw. So
Mhm.
you attracted the kind of people who'd be good to work with you because you had a good presence, which is more comes back around to the importance of having a good social media presence that has that very clearly expresses who you are, because you'll attract the right kind of people.
Yes.
And what attracted me the most was even after I found the website and it wasn't as fully developed, I'm like, well, she doesn't have any authors because she really didn't post any authors. So I'm like, And then I was like, oh, Raven White, that's not, is that, I was like, so like all over the place about it. But what really stood out was when I reached out directly through Instagram, and Raven was nice enough to actually chat with me and then set up a meeting even before anything was signed or anything. And that spoke a lot. So we had our online meeting, and then like that just opened up everything. Like I'm like, oh, I feel like this is someone I can work with. And then I saw, from her background, the Legend of Zelda poster there, and I'm just like, oh,
I
she-
had the same thing, David. I
Yeah.
saw that and I was immediately like, okay, yeah, that's a good sign.
yeah, it's a good sign.
room and there was a tennis poster, and I was like, she likes Star Wars and she doesn't hate the prequels. So I'm like, that is
A
I'm like-
woman of taste.
That's right. I forgot. We had the poster of Anakin when he's
Yeah.
like a child and it has the shadow of Darth Vader behind him.
Yes, I remember that.
Robert, we couldn't hear you what you just said.
I just said that's a wonderful image. Like that's like a genius poster.
It is.
Yeah,
And the metaphor is magnificent.
right, exactly.
But yeah, that's what one thing I love about indie publishers versus major is Raven actually, as an indie publisher, took her time to speak with someone that was interested in publication
Mhm.
versus a major, publishing industry wouldn't even take the time to sit down and chat with a potential author. So
Exactly. I mean, when I had my Zoom call with Raven and she talked to me about my story and let me know about what Curious Corvid was, it was like, and then at the very end, it's like, well, we'd like to sign you. It's like, it's just the
Yeah.
build up and the conversation. And then when she offered at the end, it's like, yes, I wanted to scream, but I just couldn't.
Yeah.
But
one of the
showed
first
excitement
things
too much.
one of the first things she said to me, she's like, so Alice Reaper, tell me about that. I'm like, oh, such energy.
I remember when I was first about to have my very first meeting with Raven. I happened to be visiting my parents at the time, and both my mom and my wife told me that what you're gonna wear. I was wearing this exact outfit, and they said, don't you need to like dress up and look nice, isn't this kind of like a job interview? And I was like, I guess it's kind of like a job interview, but more for her, not for me. And also, this is not the kind of person that I need to dress up for. Like, this isn't some corporate person. Like,
Yeah.
that you very much misunderstood the dynamic here. This isn't formal, this is familiar.
Oh, this is true. Authenticity is important to me. If you can't be yourself, then what's the point?
Yep.
Mhm.
Definitely.
So, well, I appreciate all your kind words. Do be careful because, you might give me a big head. But I am just really excited, and I'm so grateful for everybody believing in Curious Corvids so much. It's like I am humbled and surprised by it, because everybody in our house is just so supportive and they just believe. And it's like I don't always understand that from my own perspective, because most of my stuff I just make up as I go along, and I'm continually learning and changing my strategies. And so it's like, I don't know, I guess it's hard to explain, but I just appreciate that everybody is so nice and easy to work with and all that fun stuff.
That's what makes this fun to do. It's what it makes this so much easier for us as writers to have not only the support from you, but also just the general atmosphere of everything. It's not like that corporate you got to rushing, pushing it through. No, we can take our time, work together.
Yes.
Make something really good.
I know
Truly
sometimes
is a labor of love.
Yes. And I know sometimes, being that it's a smaller press, and because I don't have like all of the assistants that come with a fancy press, I know things take longer to get done. Like Robert's been waiting a really long time since he signed his contract to have his books come out. And I feel badly about that, because I wish that I could pump them out faster, but
that's my though, because I was like, it needs to come out around the time that it's set. But that's a whole year, like almost 2 years.
I know it's been a while,
but
good things are worth waiting for
Yeah.
sure.
And Ravven, you are a powerhouse for all that you do for being one person.
Yes.
I have a system. And a lot of coffee. This is my first coffee of the day. It's gone. So
isn't that what we live on as writers? We live on our coffee, caffeine,
Alcohol and coffee.
Yeah.
Alcohol and coffee.
That sounds right.
well, I saw it was like write drunk and edit sober.
I think that was Hemingway who said that.
Yes. I haven't tried that, but I've been tempted to.
Hey, as long as it works.
Yep.
Whatever helps you tap into the emotion.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out and chatting with me this afternoon for our round table. I will be putting it up on YouTube over the next couple of days. Also, all of your book trailers that I've been making, they are all on YouTube. There is a playlist of them. So if you ever want to share them anywhere and you just want to have a link for it, it's right there available for you. And the Google Drive file that they're in, whenever I make new ones, I'll just pop them in there. So if you just check them occasionally, there might be new ones in there for your books or for whatever it is that's happening. So
so cool. It's like I can't wait to see like whatever you cook up for mine, because like I'm like so impressed with those.
Yeah, they came out really good.
I'm glad that you like them, because I spent a stupid amount of time making them.
Yeah, they look like, I'm like, I need to see this movie. I'm like, oh wait, it's not a movie.
Well, that's why I'm like, if it's like, like very cinematic and very visceral, like people are going to be like, I need to read. What is happening? I need this in my life.
She has. I can attest. She's been working very hard on them. We'll be talking, and then she'll go quiet for a while, and I'll be like, "Are you on Render Forest right now? Are you working on the videos?"
Oh my goodness. So, but yes. So, I try to. As I'm making stuff for your books, I'll try to make sure that you guys have access to stuff too, so that you can use them to market or whatever it is that you're doing. And then I'm also the videos that I make for just Curious Corvid, I'll make a Google Drive there too. So if you ever want to use those, you can. And they're on YouTube also. Or if they're not yet, they will be. So, but anyway, thank you for coming and hanging out and talking. I've gotten quite a few people tell me that they watch our author roundtables and they find them really interesting and really insightful and really helpful. So not only do I get to spend my afternoon with you guys and we get to chat about writer stuff, but everybody on the flip side is enjoying it too, which I think is really nice. So Yes. So I'm going to wrap this up for today, and I will see you probably next month. We'll have another author roundtable. We're going to have an interview coming up soon with Ray for her book, and then one for Mark for The River of Souls. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then we'll have one for Robert coming up for his book release. And David, I want to fit you in for one too, now that you have 2 books out and you have the other one coming with Quill Keepers. So we'll get some fresh content, because I think the last interview we did with you was way back when Ashes came out. So we need a new one. So but yes, keep being your wonderful selves, and I will see you soon, I guess. I'm not very good with endings. But anyway, yes, there we go. I can do that.
Yep.
I can't do that. I fail.
Oh, remember, we may be different species, but we're all part of the same family. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and have a great rest of your week.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Yeah, I'll be the same.